Hey folks, Dr. Eric Hughes here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about something called sequencing specific to our fascial systems in our body. I believe bar none that sequencing is something that is missing from the majority of all training regimes. It's very overlooked, and it's something that Revolution in Motion thrives on. First of all, why is sequencing important? Well, sequencing is important, simply for improving your pain and your athletic performance. Let's take a couple examples into account. Number one, throwing a baseball, right? You don't throw a baseball with just your arm. We sequence these events starting from the ground all the way to our feet, to our knees, our hips, all the way through, right? It's a sequence of events. Another example is an air squat, or maybe even an overhead squat, because that requires a lot more demand on mobility throughout the entire body. If you're doing an air squat, if you're familiar with any points of performance, right, you squat down and you bring yourself back up with that bar up overhead. What might happen if we have some challenges in mobility? Well, your feet could be pointing out, you could be dropping your arches, your knees could be caved in, you could be rounding through your low back, you could be collapsing through the chest or in the shoulders and arms. The list is endless, right? And let's take into account, for example, rounding the low back. Well, someone might be rounding their low back and for more reasons than just because they have immobility in the low back. And so where do we start? How do we figure out where to improve that dysfunction? Well, we go through sequencing, right? Specifically within Revolution in Motion, we start with very simple movements and we work to more integrated, more complex movements. What this might look like is we start off with frog rock. Again, a very basic exercise if you've ever done it before. To start lengthening the spine, opening up the hips a little bit, and then we move into something called maybe kneeling overhead rock, which puts more specific emphasis on lifting our chest, hollowing in our abs, shoulder position, and then once we integrate that, then we can move on to an exercise maybe like squat to overhead reach, which now we're still lifting our chest, hollowing our abs, focusing on that shoulder position, but now we're integrating more of that hips and the feet focused. How this pertains to fascia is that fascia is essentially organized or can be organized in segments, right? From your head all the way down into your arms, chest, into your legs, throughout the entire body. And so what Revolution in Motion does, again, from going from simple to complex, is that it really targets and identifies those fascial dysfunctions in those areas, works through them, and then starts to, again, incorporate those into much more whole body movements, more functional movements, right? Because that rounding through the low back might actually be a dysfunction in the chest or the shoulder position or the hips, right? It's not just the low back. And again, that's really what stands Revolution in Motion apart from any other exercise modality, sequencing specific to fascial remodeling. Okay? My name is Dr. Eric Hughes once more, and I'll catch you guys later.